Okay, so we're going to do a really fascinating muscle, which is the iliopsoas. The iliopsoas is deep, so especially the psoas portion is really, really deep. And the important landmarks are the iliac crest. So I'll feel along here, and I'm going to draw it. Here's the iliac crest, which comes down there. Then the top part, this part of the iliac crest, is called the ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. So that's just here. From this, the inguinal ligament runs across like that and runs down onto the pubic bone here. Okay, so the last structure is on the inside of the leg, and that is the lesser trochanter of the femur, which is in here. You can't really feel it. The iliopsoas has two components. The first component is the iliacus. So here's the iliac crest, and the iliacus is tucked inside the iliac crest. So to get to it, you have to go through the abdomen, push through the abdominal wall and go inside the iliac crest. It's a huge muscle which runs, if I draw, it fills the whole of the inside of the iliac crest, and it runs underneath and comes through and joins into the iliopsoas tendon. So that's the first, the iliacus muscle. The psoas muscle starts at T12. So if you feel just the top of the rib, and my last bit of drawing, this is about T12 here, and so it starts here and it runs down, attaching to the front of all the lumbar spines from T12, L1, 2, 3, 4, 5, running all the way along like this, like that, coming down, and it's a large muscle. Now, it turns out there's a greater psoas and a lesser psoas muscle, but the lesser psoas muscle is really of no significance. The greater psoas attaches all the way down. It joins with the iliacus to form a big fat tendon which runs down and joins into the lesser trochanter of the femur, and together these muscles, when they contract, will flex your hip. So they are the main flexors of the hip. So iliacus is, because of its position attached to the fixed iliac bone, it has just purely the function, as it contracts, it will pull the leg up. But the psoas is the fascinating muscle because it is attached to the front of the spine, running down and attaching into the femur. So if the psoas contracts, it will have a compressive effect on the front of the whole lumbar spine. So it's part of the muscle of flexion forward. Your abdominal wall helps, but the psoas does that. And if your leg is straight, in other words, your leg is in a direct straight line, it actually acts as guy ropes for the lumbar spine, helping to keep the lumbar spine in a little bit of lordosis, which is exactly what you want. So it's actually a stabilizer of the lumbar spine. A flexor if your leg is forward, and a stabilizer if you're standing up straight. And it turns out to be an incredibly important, because it's a big strong muscle running down on each side of your lumbar spine in the front. Okay, together with the quadratus lumborum, which we've discussed earlier, these are the two major postural stabilizers of the lumbar spine. They're very, very deep and incredibly important muscles. Okay, so because it has so many functions, and because the leg is movable and the spine is movable, the psoas does cause problems. But because of its hidden position, it is often missed. The first trigger point, if we just roll very slightly over, is next to the belly button, higher up in the abdomen. And remember that to get there you have to get deep, because this is the deepest, this is the deep, very, very deep muscle. The second trigger point is in the iliacus, which is, so I'm putting it here, but you need to understand to get to it, you've got to get to the inside of the iliac crest. And the third trigger point is down on the thigh, where the iliopsoas tendon comes into the lesser trochanter of the femur. So these three triggers, now they actually cause pain in completely different positions, which there you are, adds to the complexity. This trigger, remembering that the psoas is part of the back muscles, is felt in the back. So if you could just roll over slightly, thanks Ben, just roll to your side. This trigger is felt along there, from L1 down to L5 as a band along here, which is really surprising. So somebody who has pain in this distribution and has very little to find here, look in the front. Thank you, roll back. This trigger and this trigger both cause pain to run from the lower abdomen down into the front and the inside of the thigh. So this is the pain distribution of the two lower triggers. So to treat the iliopsoas is tricky because it's a deep, deep muscle. If you have got someone who's very large, very muscular, or someone who's really fat, it's just about, I've found, practically difficult to impossible to get to these muscles. But in someone who's slim, it's actually relatively easy. Just have to understand the anatomy. So let's start with the psoas. So for someone of this size, it's moderately difficult. You need a real skinny person. But you have a muscle, big strap muscle here, the rectus abdominis, two strap muscles. This trigger actually underlies that muscle, but to go through it is very, very difficult. So you feel to the edge of it, and there's a little sort of opening to get down. And then if you, can you bend your leg up very slightly? So if he bends his leg up slightly, that relaxes the abdomen, and then you press down deep. Take your time, because there's a lot of structures to get through, and some of the tenderness may well come from the bowel. So if you press down and it's a sharp, and the person says, oh, that's sore, just reduce your pressure, sit there for a little bit, and do a gentle massage. And the massage is going up like this, or down, and what you may do is just move a little bit of wind that's sitting in a loop in the bowel. Take your time, gently get deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm actually deep enough now that I can come onto the psoas muscle. And if this was sore, he would, and the cool thing is I can see his face very easily. If this was sore, he would say, this would be really tender. As I pressed on it, he may feel pain locally, but he may actually feel pain going through to his back. So once I'm deep down there, deeper, 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 again using both hands so that there's not a lot of pressure. I'm not working myself too hard. Once I cause pain, I reduce the pressure and then follow that ischemic principle of gradually increasing pressure down, down, down until the pain melts away, keeping below the pain threshold. To treat iliacus, I feel for the iliac crest, and again, he needs to be relaxed. Sometimes it's easier if the leg is up, sometimes not. Just do what you can to take the pressure off. And I've got my hand this way around, and I'm hooking my hand in behind the iliac crest. And as I hook my hand in behind, I'm pressing down and back like that. And this muscle, when it's tender, is exquisitely, excruciatingly tender. So you spend time, you work your way in, and then finally when you're on it, there, I'm on it now, you can feel the muscle deep behind the iliac crest. And again, you follow ischemic principles. The last is in the groin, and this is again a fairly common trigger that people will, as they'll complain of pain in this area, and when you press down on the inside, you find, so the way that you find this point is if you feel the edge of the pubic bone and the anterior superior iliac spine here, the trigger point is about halfway and maybe 2 centimeters down the leg, like this. And then you press down. Now, you're very close to the femoral nerve, the femoral artery, and the vein. So as you press down, you're searching, and you run your finger back and forward because the fibers are in this direction. When you find the tender point, you just again apply those ischemic principles, gradually increasing pressure, increasing until the pain is gone. So search for all 3 triggers if the person has pain that corresponds to the iliopsoas muscle. So the next way that you can treat this is by using cold. In my experience, the effect of cold on this muscle is not great because the muscle's so deep, but it is taught. So you start from the origin, run over, run down the muscle into the pain zone like that. You do 2 or 3 passes, and then you do the passes from the iliacus down like that. You would remove, if you're doing the cold, you would put a towel here, remove his pants, and go right through. It's no good to have clothes in the way, like that. 2 or 3, and now you need to stretch the muscle to length.